Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Trent's Tech. And today I'm going to be telling you guys my 1 month later review. I've actually had this phone for more than a month, but still over a month of use with the S22 Ultra. And let me go ahead and open up with this because this has actually been kind of funny. There's been people in the comments section who are like, oh, you're just going to return the S22 Ultra. Do you still have the S22 Ultra? Or are you just another YouTuber that's just switching just so you can get views? No, I actually switched to the S22 Ultra, and it's what I use as my daily driver. And some of you might be asking, well, why do I still have an iPhone if I have an S22 Ultra? The main reason is one, I'm in IT, so it helps to have both Android and iOS whenever I'm trying to troubleshoot problems and I'm trying to work on stuff. Two, I paid for both of these phones, so I'm not going to sit there and just go sell one just to appease a bunch of people just so I can say, I only use the S22 Ultra. You wouldn't look at somebody that had two different cars in their driveway and say, oh, sell that Chevy and only keep Ford, or, vice versa. I mean, even there's people out there that have an Xbox and they have a PlayStation. So you're not running around telling people to go sell those so they can be loyal to one brand. So why would I have to be loyal to one thing? I just prefer to use the S22 Ultra over the 13 Pro Max. Now, moving on, there may be some things here that may repeat from my previous video at the 2 week mark because pretty much have been some things that have stayed the same. There are also some things that have changed and some things that I've noticed about the S22 Ultra. And these are things that are, I believe, either Android things or they're things that Samsung could probably fix, but I will go ahead and name those out. So we can kind of like start off on that first part. And I wouldn't call this the bad. I would call this either my concern or something that I don't prefer with the S22 Ultra. The first thing that I noticed coming from the iPhone, because I got used to iOS and the way they do everything, is when you're on an iPhone and you get your notifications, they're in chronological order. So let's say you get a notification from Twitter at 2:42 p.m. and let's say you get another notification at 10 a.m. earlier. The 2:42 p.m. notification will be above the 10 a.m. notification. So you can kind of know in order where you got your notifications from. However, when I'm on the S22 Ultra and I get notifications, they're all over the place. The times are all lined up at different times. I could get a message from somebody this morning that I missed, and sometimes that'll show up first as opposed to a YouTube video from another creator that I wanted to watch. And it's just all out of whack. Like, I've gotten so used to how iOS was with their notifications over the past couple of years and having them in order that I haven't been able to find a way to properly put those in order on the S22 Ultra. I've kind of looked around online. I've asked a few people, but a lot of people are like, that's just the way the notifications are on the S22 Ultra. So if that's one thing I could change, please, Android, Samsung, whoever, give me chronological notifications because that is a pain point for me. I still use the phone, but at the same time, it's a drawback. So if you guys know how to fix that, let me know down in the comment section below so I can figure it out. And then I would probably go ahead and make a video so other people could learn how to do it. But definitely notifications is definitely a concern. The other concern for me is this curved display. Now, I don't know if you guys can see it here. The curve is on the edges and the case kind of covers it up pretty well. But I've been seeing more and more and more photos and people posting online with people having shattered displays. Now, I'm not sure if they had a screen protector on there. I'm not sure if they had a case on their phone, but I'm seeing more people with broken S22 Ultras than I'm seeing with broken iPhones. And that's probably due to the curved display because when the curved display hits the ground, it impacts and it hits that curve, which to me seems a little bit more fragile than a flat display. And a lot of people's displays are getting broken. So that's a concern of mine. So I'm probably going to switch from this. It's the It's the Caseology Parallax case, and this is the burgundy one. I'm probably going to switch to a heavier, thicker type of S22 case. That way, I don't have as much anxiety when it comes to screen protectors. Now, I've thought about putting a screen protector on here. I thought about doing the White Stone Dome. I thought about a couple of Spigen protectors, but my fear is the touch responsiveness of the whole, screen protectors and stuff like that. Like some people have some issues with it, some people don't. And then I've heard kind of through the grapevine that the White Stone Dome screen protectors can be brittle or they can have issues later on down the line. So I just want a big, super thick, heavy case for this. Now, I'm not running around with this phone without any protection. First, when I got it, I was just on the T-Mobile insurance or whatever to protect the phone. But I found out that I think it's up to 30 days after you purchase a Samsung S22 Ultra, you can actually go on to Samsung's website, go through Samsung Care, and you can sign up for the monthly Samsung Care plan. So if something does happen to this, I can ship it off, Samsung can fix it, and I can get another one. But once again, the screen, as far as durability, is a concern. I would recommend putting a heavier case on it. For those of you out there that want to run around and not have like a protective case on there, salute to you guys. You guys are brave. I'm not about that life. There's too many corners on this screen for this to fall out of my hands and drop. So that's really just my other concern. Another concern about the phone that I've talked about in a previous video, and it's still a concern to this day, I am still missing calls, or I'm still missing notifications because the vibration motor in here feels very weak. There are times where, because let's say I have Twitter on both of these phones, and both of these phones are laying on the desk. I will clearly 100% hear and feel the iPhone on the desk over the S22 Ultra. Now, if I have the S22 Ultra by itself, if I'm paying attention to the phone, I will notice the vibration. I will notice it going off. If I'm not paying attention, or if it's in my pocket, or I'm walking around and I don't have headphones on or anything like that, I will miss the notifications left and right. I'll pull my phone out of my pocket and look, and it's just like, you missed this, and this. So I know some people in the comment section basically kind of mentioned that essentially when they were designing this phone, they had to turn the motor, I guess, for the design. I don't know if it was because of the battery or if they wanted it to be quieter, but if you get this phone, even if you turn up the vibration motor, because you can go into the settings and turn it all the way up, yeah, it's not exactly like the greatest thing ever. Like having it turned all the way up is like barely feeling this phone at all. And so that's just something I still want to change. I'm still rolling with it, but maybe in like the S20, like the S23 Ultra or something like that, they can make it a little bit stronger again, because yeah, it's a little bit of an annoyance, but I kind of rock with it. The other thing that kind of annoys me, and this is just me being somebody that's still coming from the iPhone, still getting used to the S22 Ultra, is, I'm sorry, mute switch. The mute switch on here, this mute switch, I wish that was available on every Android phone, because it's so easy for me just to flick the switch up and down to go between vibration and to having the ringer on. Whereas this, I have to, hit the button, adjust the volume. I know there's like another shortcut around there that you can use, and I've kind of, messed around with it a little bit, but I just want to be able just to, flip the switch and go and kind of live that life, but I can't because I've switched to the S22 Ultra. The other thing about the S22 Ultra and the reason why I still carry the iPhone 13 Pro Max is LumaFusion. Now, this may not make any sense to you, so I don't expect everybody else to understand this, but LumaFusion is a very powerful video editing program that I use with my iPhone to either make videos or sometimes, do memes and do special stuff, green screen, whatever. It's like a $20 or $30 program that I paid for once. Whereas when you get on Android, there's like nothing video editing wise that you can just pay for once and have it. I think Power Director has a subscription fee. KineMaster, however you say that, has a subscription fee. All of these other Android-based video editors have some sort of subscription fee, or they're not on the same level as LumaFusion. However, I've checked online. LumaFusion said that it's coming to the S22 Ultra. Right now, they are in their beta program, but I'm still waiting for that to come out, and I'll probably make a bunch of videos on that when it does, because that's something I definitely want to use. That's only available on the iPhone, but I need it to be available on the S22 Ultra. And as far as, I guess you can call those complaints or concerns or whatever, that's pretty much it. Those are my minor concerns. If none of those concerns bother you, you're probably going to be really good with this phone. And I'm not going to go ahead and do that whole comparison of, is it better than the Note 20? Because a lot of people ask me, well, what's the difference between the Note 20 and this one? It's a newer phone. I mean, I'm not going to go out and buy a Note 20 Ultra to compare side by side. I can see if I already had one, but I can honestly say that for most people that have a Note 20 Ultra, if you're happy with it, stay with it. If you want to go get an S22 Ultra, grab it. If you think it's just another Note, then do whatever you want to do with it. But that's pretty much where I'm going to leave that. The other things that I'm going to kind of go over with this phone, and this is going to kind of tie into my daily usage of the phone and how I feel about it, is once again, coming back to battery life. I don't worry about battery life with this phone. I know a lot of people still, iPhone 13 Pro Max, battery champ and everything, but take it from me, my day starts at, I don't know, somewhere between 5 or 6 in the morning, and I just grab my phone and I start using it. I'll either be listening to a podcast on YouTube or watching a video or sometimes taking down a note or whatever. This is my alarm clock. This is how I start the day. I'll even swipe over and check like the news, read about the Browns and all the, crazy moves that they're making and NFL stuff. And then after that, I get in my car and I go to work. I'm not on this phone all day, every day. And most of the complaints that people get out of the battery life of this phone is that when they first get it, they're like, oh my God, the battery life's trash. It's doing this, it's doing that. How dare I pay $1,300 for a phone and it sucks this bad? Well, the thing about the S22 Ultra and One UI and Samsung and everything I've learned so far is you cannot measure battery performance off of the first day. You absolutely can't do that. You have to give it, I say minimum about 3 to 4 days, but generally about a week with the adaptive battery and all that stuff to where it kind of learns how you operate with the phone. And once it does that, you're golden. Your battery life is pretty much decent as far as I can tell, as far as my daily usage. And like I said, with me, working and stuff, I use it for email. I use it for taking pictures. Sometimes there's like a Wi-Fi array or Wi-Fi antenna I need to take a picture of, and I can use the telephoto zoom on there and do that. I'll hop on Clubhouse. I'll listen to people talk and be a part of different conversations, and it really doesn't nuke my battery. I use it for notifications, and I do other things with it. Probably about the only thing I don't do with this phone is game. So I really can't give you, I guess, advice or tell you how good or how bad it is at gaming, or if gaming even really kills the battery on this phone. I use it more as a productivity work phone. And like I said, a couple of pictures here and there. Even when I take the phone out sometimes and I record in either 4K or 1080p, it's fine. I honestly haven't used 8K ever since I did that video test about, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I probably won't use 8K on this phone just because I just don't have a use for it. But as far as the battery goes, I can go from about 5 or 6 in the morning to about 7 in the afternoon if I started off at 100%. I don't charge my battery all day. Pretty much, I just take my phone out and I use it. If I see the battery get down to about, let's say, 20%, I'll charge it up and then I'll just use it again. Like, I won't really charge it back up until it gets down to 20% again. Now, this is my daily usage. This is how I go about it with my phone. Your mileage may vary. Sometimes I'm on LTE and 5G all day long. Other days I'm on Wi-Fi. Now, you're going to get better battery life if you're constantly on Wi-Fi. But if you're somebody that actually has to travel for a job or go outside and stuff like that, and you're bouncing between a Wi-Fi network and LTE, your battery life may vary. But as far as I'm concerned, battery life on this phone is awesome. The other thing that I have to talk about with pretty much this phone is the display. This display, as far as my own eyes, I'm not a colorist, I'm not a professional videographer or whoever you need to look at screens to basically tell you how good they are. I'm not that. All I know is that the screen and the color profile that Samsung runs on their displays and screens, it has spoiled me. It has spoiled me to the point to where I don't even want to watch content on my 49-inch Samsung monitor with a matte display. The OLED display, whatever they do with the colors, the image that you get out of here, I constantly want to watch movies and YouTube videos on the S22 Ultra. I actually want to watch it more on this S22 Ultra than I want to watch on my 13 Pro Max. And I remember, back when they came out with it's the 13 Pro Max, it's the Super XDR display, it's got Dolby Vision and blah, 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 whatever, yada, yada, such and such. If you take all of that away, and to me, if you sit these two, side by side, the display on here, to me, looks better than the display on here. Also, this display gets a little bit brighter as opposed to this display. I think this one's like 1750 nits and maybe this one's 1600, 1500, something like that. But I prefer this display on the S22 Ultra over the 13 Pro Max. And that's me using those back and forth over the past month and not really trying to lean to one side. It's just, I just find myself reaching for this phone for content. And then when I don't have the phone on me and I'm watching like a regular TV or looking at something else, my eyes have adjusted and I'm just like, man, I want this OLED display back in my life. So that's pretty much it for the display. Now, the other thing that we got to talk about, because I kind of read this, in the Twitter news or whatnot, and basically there was an article that came out that said that Apple isn't probably going to have an under display fingerprint sensor for another 2 years or something like that, or basically not to expect it at all, which is kind of disheartening because I have become so used to this fingerprint sensor. And the sad part about it is I need it in my life. It's something that, if you get on an iPhone and you got Face ID, you're just like, okay, whatever, you just got Face ID. But once you start using the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor on this S22 Ultra, you're like, man, this is dope. This is awesome. That's where it's at. And I don't feel like I can really be happy with a phone unless I have that ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. And the cool thing is let's say I have my phone sitting down and let's say I have a video going, right? If I have a video going and it's sitting here and I have to get up, walk away, whatever, and my phone locks, well, guess what? I can walk up to my phone and put my finger on the screen and unlock the phone. With my 13 Pro Max, if it's down sideways, I have to pick it up. I have to look at it. It has to unlock. Then I have to orientate it back to landscape to pick up where I left off. Whether it's a movie, YouTube video, or whatnot, I have to do that every single time. And then there are some times where Face ID won't recognize my face, or like I said before, Face ID doesn't work in landscape. Then I have to sit there and like type my pin in sideways. I don't have to do that with this phone. And speaking of Face ID, you have Face ID on a 13 Pro Max. You have Face Unlock, which is on the S22 Ultra. Here's the part that I'm going to talk about, and maybe this might stir up a controversy, maybe it might not. I understand where people are coming from when they say Face ID, the technology, it's more secure and blah, 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 Apple security and all that stuff. Okay. If you really want security on your phone, you're not using Face Unlock. You're not using that for security. That's not the ultimate security in your phone, because Face Unlock, Face ID gets disabled after a while and you have to put your PIN in anyway. So your phone defaults to your PIN. So I don't want to hear this whole thing about, oh, you can hold a picture up to this and unlock it or whatnot. Face ID is biometrics and it's a convenience, okay? It's meant to be more convenient than putting in your PIN. Same thing with the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor and putting your thumb on there, and people talking about how they can trick it and all that stuff. It's a convenience thing. So if you want more security, then don't turn it on. Have some super ridiculous long PIN number that nobody can guess, because it's going to default to that anyway after you turn the phone off and back on. But the good thing about this Face Unlock is it works in any orientation. So I can look at it straight on, sideways, upside down, and it'll be perfectly fine. And basically, when I try to do the Face ID, is it going? I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's got like a little circle there, and it goes around the camera to let you know that the Face ID, Face Unlock, whatever you want to call it, is working. And so far, it's been pretty good. I want more options when it comes to these phones. I would love for Apple to put a fingerprint sensor underneath the display or in the power button, give people more accessibility. I still love the fact that I can just draw a pattern on the screen if I wanted to unlock the phone. I can't draw a pattern on the iPhone for whatever reason they wanted to do that. Maybe they wanted you to have less options. Maybe they wanted you to, I don't know. I don't get it. There are a lot of things about this phone that I just find confusing and annoying, and I'm just moving on past that. For the amount of money that you pay for this phone, it should be way more accessible. But going back to the S22 Ultra, the other thing that's been absolutely the funnest thing for me is having a USB-C port on the S22 Ultra. In Apple's entire lineup, they literally almost have a USB-C port on every single thing. They're still using Lightning on this phone. If you're somebody that loves Lightning and I can't change your mind, I'm sorry, but I love having USB-C on here. It makes my life so much easier, and that's just pretty much it for that. The other thing about the S22 Ultra, and I actually use this feature. A lot of people talk bad about it. They're like, oh, who would have used that? Well, I use it, so whatever. Reverse wireless charging. I've used reverse wireless charging a couple of times to actually charge up my iPhone because I, was kind of stupid and let it die. I've also had coworkers at work that I've used reverse wireless charging to charge up their phones a little bit because their phone died and I didn't have a lightning cable around. So having reverse wireless charging is a cool thing. I don't think it hurts the phone. I absolutely don't think it hurts the phone at all. There's too many people out there that are like these greedy little people like, I'm not sharing my battery with you. Go get your own cord. I'm like, really? You're gonna leave a friend hanging like that? Like, just, you know, it's a cool technology. And let's go beyond techies, okay? Let's go beyond your regular tech YouTubers, your regular tech pundits, and all that crazy stuff. If you were to walk up to somebody who didn't know anything about tech and their phone was dead and they didn't have a cable, and you said, hey, I can at least charge your phone so you can make whatever call that you need to make, get you to 10% or whatever, just to get you along the way. And they say, oh, do you have a cable? And you're like, no, I'm just going to charge it with my phone. And they're going to like, how are you going to charge it? Okay, I'm going to take your phone, I'm going to put it on here, and I'm going to let it charge. That feature blows people's minds. There's a lot of regular people who don't know that reverse wireless charging exists. And every time I've showed it to them, they're like, that's cool. Is it the most efficient way to charge a phone? No, it is not. Will you drain your battery a little bit trying to charge someone else's phone this way? Yes, but it is a feature. It is a convenience. It is something that it is nice to have when you are in a bind, and it is something else that I use. Now, one thing that, and this is kind of going back to what I talked about earlier, one thing that I would like to have as far as the battery with this S22 Ultra is I wish Samsung would adopt what OnePlus did and be able to have that super warp charging, because my girlfriend has the OnePlus 9 Pro, and that one has up to, I believe, 60 to 65 watts fast charging. Now, everybody's going to run out of nowhere and say, you're going to tear your battery up. You're going to destroy your battery. Your phone's not going to last a year. Well, first off, my girlfriend's OnePlus 9 Pro is still going strong. No issues, still charges fine and everything. Two, the battery design, they actually take the cell and they split it in two. And so both cells are charging at 30 watts. So even though it's like 65 watt fast charging, both cells are only charging at 30 watts. So that actually helps regulate, heat and voltage and all that stuff. So I wish they would do the same thing with the S22 or S23 Ultra series line of phones. That way you can, charge up faster. Right now I can charge up in about, I say, somewhere between an hour and 10 minutes at its fastest. And like, if it was a little bit longer, maybe about an hour and 20 minutes, but that's just something that I would prefer. And I think that would kind of be like a cool way to go with this phone. The other feature about this phone, and we can talk about it a little bit, is DeX. So essentially with DeX, you're basically taking your phone and you can basically put a desktop on a monitor. You can put a desktop on a TV, and essentially it's kind of like somewhat separate from what you're doing with your phone. And so one of the cool things I did the other day was I had what was that movie called? I think it was like Trolls Rock World or something like that. It was a movie that my kid wanted to watch. Well, sometimes when I'm like casting stuff from my phone to the TV, you can't do anything extra on the iPhone when you're casting, right? Like if I go ahead and pull up a movie and throw it on the TV, and let's say it's on YouTube or whatever, then I'm just stuck with my iPhone just doing whatever. I can't do anything else. With my Samsung phone, I can open up DeX, and then I can have my own desktop DeX or whatever. Hear me out. It sounds confusing. I can have this on the TV. I can go to YouTube. I can play the movie for my kid, and I can still use my phone as a regular phone and not skip a beat and be perfectly fine while it's all handling this from this phone, which is crazy. It actually blows my mind, and it kind of blows my mind in a different way that you wouldn't expect, because usually, we're all getting amazed by cameras and all that other crazy stuff, and oh my God, but no, like that feature, even though I used to kind of make fun of it online, oh, like 10 people use DeX. Actually, no, this is a feature that people should use more, and I should probably really dedicate a video to that. But anyway, it's something that I enjoy, and it's something that's cool about this phone. I mean, look, if Apple was able to do like the same type of Dex feature, I'd be on that too. I would totally be telling people to use that. I would take LumaFusion, throw it on my TV, and be doing one thing on the TV and still doing something else in the background and being all about that life and enjoying it. Now, moving on, and yes, this is kind of lengthy because I'm trying to cover everything. Cameras. Okay, let's talk about cameras. The best thing about the S22 Ultra is the telephoto camera. Now, I'll say it right now. 100 times zoom, you should never use it. It never makes sense to use it. The only time I've seen 100 times zoom even look semi okay is if you're looking at a very large object from a very far distance, like something that you can barely see with your eye. If you do 100 times zoom, it kind of looks okay. So like if you want to do 100 times zoom towards the antenna of a skyscraper and you're like 20 miles away or something like that, then that makes sense. Anything else, no. Like if you're trying to use 100 times zoom to zoom in on something very small that's a medium distance away, don't use it. It looks horrible. I still don't even know why Samsung puts 100x digital zoom in here. The max that it should go to is 30 times zoom. And what's cool about this is I was never like a wildlife photographer or anything like that, because when you have a phone, or let's say you have like a 13 Pro Max, you can only get so much distance with this phone before the picture becomes unusable. If you're trying to take a picture of a bird, good luck. You're not going to get that close with this phone to take a really good picture of a bird unless you get really lucky. S22 Ultra and the 30 times zoom, you can get a decent photo. It won't be 100% like crispy or anything like that, but it's a decent photo. You can capture pictures of squirrels, taking pictures of kids who are playing. Like my kid would be in the backyard playing. I don't want to mess with him. He's out there having his own time. I can still get like my nice family photos with the 30 times zoom. The 10x zoom on here is really good. I would recommend that everybody, if you use the telephoto part, use 10x for like the best, crispy, sharpest pictures and stuff like that. It's perfectly good to go. But digital zoom is kind of iffy with, resolution and how all that stuff looks. But that's the main part of the phone, and that's what I use the most. The other thing that I like about it is this has a macro camera in it. Now, at work, I have to take pictures of barcodes and small text and stuff like that because my eyes suck. And a lot of these small text font print that you see on laptops and desktops and all these other things just drive my eyes insane. So I used to use my 13 Pro Max because it had the macro camera, and I would just get up close, use the macro camera, take pictures, send them in emails, and go off that way. S22 Ultra, I got my macro camera. These pretty much kind of work about the same as far as macro ability. I want to say the 13 Pro Max is just like a smidget better with the macro than S22 Ultra, but for most people in daily use, you kind of forget about the difference between the two. If you pick either one up and you try and get a macro photo, you should be fine. I don't know about like all that artistic photography shit or whatever. Like I know people are gonna be like, oh my God, dynamic range. Like, I don't care about all that. All I care about is how the phone operates and how this works. Night photos. Okay. There's like this whole nightography thing on here that honestly, I don't even know how it works. Okay. I watched the Samsung presentation. They talked about nightography. They talked about all these different crazy things and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, if I had to choose between taking a picture at night with the S22 Ultra or the iPhone 13 Pro Max, yada, yada, whatever, I would actually lean more towards the 13 Pro Max for night photos. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the sensor, the computation, or whatever works or whatever. In my opinion, the 13 Pro Max photos at night look better than the photos from the S22 Ultra. But it's when you compare the two side by side. if you take the S22 Ultra out to take a photo at night, you just take a photo and show it to somebody, people are like, cool, you got the photo. It looks great. That's awesome. They are totally happy with it, and there's really nothing else to really know about it. So if you want to, if you're worried about nighttime photos, just get the phone, take the pictures, and be happy. Don't sit there and get on the internet and start comparing photos to all these different things between pixels and iPhones and all that stuff, because all you're going to do is just drive yourself crazy, and you're not going to be able to pick up a phone. Most of you watching this video are probably trying to figure out, should I buy this phone? What does it do? I guarantee you're probably going to be happy with this phone. Going back to the camera, though, there was an issue with shutter lag. And essentially what people mean with shutter lag is, let's say you pull your phone out, your kid's running around, and you snap a photo, right? Sometimes the picture that you take, like the image that you see, is not the image that you get on the other end of the camera. And in my usage, the iPhone is usually a little bit faster sometimes. With the S22 Ultra, you can learn how to anticipate photos, but for, I guess, 100% dummy proof, take the phone out and take a picture and be perfectly fine. You can definitely do that with the 13 Pro Max over the S22 Ultra. The cool part about the whole camera system with the S22 Ultra is the amount of controls that you have with the S22 Ultra. So with the S22 Ultra, you have a pro mode. And if you're like, a photographer or you're in a video and all that stuff, you can tweak a lot of things. You can tweak your ISO. You can tweak your shutter speed. There are, different things that you can mess around with as far as like time lapse and getting, long exposure photos. All of that stuff is a little bit easier on S22 Ultra, whereas the 13 Pro Max, it's making a lot of the decisions for you. And if you're somebody that doesn't care, you'll be fine. You can get a 13 Pro Max and let it make decisions. You can actually just have the S22 Ultra make a lot of the decisions, and you'll be fine that way. But if you wanted that extra control, if you wanted to dive deeper, more into a camera system and learn more about cameras without having to buy an actual, DSLR or anything crazy like that, S22 Ultra. I think you have the ability to learn more, to dive deeper, and to do, kind of extra things that you really wouldn't learn on the 13 Pro Max, because the 13 Pro Max is just really out there to kind of hold your hand a little bit. Now, the other thing about the S22 Ultra, and I guess maybe you care about this, maybe you don't care. For me, the UI experience on the S22 Ultra, basically like the way that things are laid out, the way that they operate, I actually prefer it now more than I prefer the Pixel experience or whatnot. Excuse me. Now, with the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro, they basically came out and they're supposed to be like stock Android, right? So this is kind of going into a different avenue than the 13 Pro Max, because I did use a Pixel 6 Pro at one point, and the UI of the Pixel 6 Pro is basic, but it's kind of too basic. Now, maybe that's something that you want or don't want, but there's even some things in there that really don't line up. For example, like with this UI configuration, and I wish I had a picture to show you guys. Maybe if I can like go into the settings, it might make or just looking here. So if we look here with this OLED screen and the way that they set up the dark mode, you can get a very, dark mode. Like all the pixels turn off on the screen. And if we go, let's say we go into settings and let's check out some other things. So in this dark mode, you can actually have a completely dark UI. Whereas with like the Pixel 6 Pro, everything's gray for some reason. Like you don't get that completely, blacked out experience or whatnot. You also have more options with the S22 Ultra, Android wise, than you do with the Pixel. And it's kind of because the Pixel is trying to be like an iPhone, but like the Android version of an iPhone. Whereas, in my opinion, the S22 Ultra with One UI is kind of becoming its own thing. It's kind of getting to the point. And look, I'm still I'm still a Team Pixel dude. I love Pixel or whatnot, but the S22 Ultra is doing a better job at being an Android phone than Pixel is. I'm sorry, I have to say it. I have to keep it real. Just I don't want to say it, but I have to keep it real. Just to be honest with you, if I were to recommend the ultimate Android experience that you could get for a phone in the US, because I already know somebody is going to be like, oh, well, you can get this import phone. No, I'm talking about phones that you can go to like AT&T or T-Mobile and pick up and have a good time with. S22 Ultra. Now, let's talk about the price now that I'm thinking about it over time or whatnot. I got this phone for $11.99. There was a deal where you could get the 256 gig version for $11.99. The retail price of it, I believe, is $12.99. I think $12.99 is a tall ask nowadays, especially with phones. But at the same time, it kind of lines up next to the 13 Pro Max. So that's how these two things, battle out or whatnot. I would have loved to see Samsung say, okay, we're not going to come out with the 128 gig, 8 gigabytes of RAM model. Like, I don't think that makes a lot of sense at $1,199. If we were to go back in time and you go look at the Note 10 Ultra, the Note 10 Ultra started at 256. There was no 128 gig option. And I think Samsung should have done the same thing. I think Samsung should have said, hey, this is the Ultra. We're starting at 256, 512, and 1 terabyte, because you can get up to a terabyte now. At this level with this phone, it doesn't make sense to me for them to have 128 gigs, especially when, if you dig into the phone and you look into all the settings and you look into how many programs and all that stuff's installed and updates, you're looking at easily like 20 to 30 gigs already being taken up on your phone. And if you have a 128 gig device, you only have 100 gigs available, that's kind of silly. So that's why I went with the 256, and I believe more people should go with the 256. Should it really matter as far as performance between the 8 gigs of RAM that's in there and the 12 that's in this one? It shouldn't, but I believe if you're going to be running a whole lot of programs and running decks and doing everything else, that you should definitely lean towards the 12 gigabyte model. Have I had any slowdowns with the device? Has it hicced up? Has it messed up? Has it done anything crazy like that? Because, you can't have like a completely positive review of a phone. Yes, I've had hiccups with the phone. Yes, I've had to restart the phone, but everything starts back up and it's good to go. I did download the update where it was like, it was supposed to unrestrict the phone, like, because I guess out of the gate, Samsung had a bunch of apps locked down to where they wouldn't use the full power, and then they got kicked off of Geekbench, and Geekbench scores didn't matter anymore, and everybody was mad at the S22 Ultra. And then they released this update basically reversing all that. I have not seen a difference in performance. I cannot sit here and tell you that after that update where they, fully unlocked the processor and the CPU or whatever you want to call it, I can't sit here and tell you that it's a better experience. I can't. I have not been able to see the performance, and I don't even know how I would measure it. Okay. I guarantee you, if I gave you this phone and I told you that, hey, it's perfectly fine, and you used it, you wouldn't have a problem with it. You would absolutely not have a problem with it. And even with them dropping the update and unlocking everything, you still wouldn't be able to tell it was faster. Now, maybe there's somebody out there who plays games and they're in that arena and they know the complete difference of that. But everything outside of there, as far as camera performance, as far as if the phone heats up or all that other stuff, it's within the normal range. It's completely within the normal range. So I don't know where everybody was going with all like that, fear of everything and all that craziness. the phone is fine. It's a decent phone. Now, going back to the price, because people are always like, well, why do you buy the phone when it's brand new and then it's going to depreciate? I bought this phone just like most people in the U.S. I'm going to say in the U.S. because there's going to be a bunch of people talk about Europe and all these other places. Like, no. In the U.S., most people buy phones on a payment plan. The payment plan is like 0% APR. And if this is $11.99, you pay $11.99 spread out over 24 months. You make a down payment if you have to make a down payment, and you pay the taxes, and that's it. I don't have to shell out $1,200 to get my hands on this phone. If I did, it wouldn't be on this channel. I wouldn't be talking about it. I wouldn't have it because I couldn't afford it. So that was just my way of getting it, and that's just the way that most people get it. And to be honest, most people are going to buy this phone, and they're just going to ride it out. They're going to ride this phone off into the sunset. They're not going to buy this phone in 2022 and then turn around and buy the S23 Ultra in 2023. They're not going to do that. They're going to ride the phone out until it dies. There are people who are still walking around using Note 8s. The only people who upgrade their phones every single year, without a doubt, are YouTubers. The reason why is because we have to make content. We have to stay up with the latest thing and all that stuff or whatever. But I'm not really doing it like that. Like, I'm not buying this phone, making some videos and turning around saying, all right, see you guys later. I got my views out of you guys. I'm about to switch to another phone. Like, no, I'm going to use this phone for the long haul, and I'm going to cover it over the long haul because, let's face it, most people really don't do that. Okay? Like, no one is really talking about this phone a month later after it. So this will probably be like the longest review video I ever do of the phone, and I'm trying to cover as much stuff as I can. So if you guys actually sit through this whole long, ridiculous thing, you might actually be more educated and have more of a real world view of this phone. But pretty much I'm going to leave it there because that's all I can really come up with and think about. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll try and answer them. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a dope phone, and I absolutely love it. So, all right, y'all, take it easy. Peace.